Hello and welcome to the Sound Lab podcast interviews, unedited. On today's show, interviews with Roddy Bottum of Faith No More, Bowling for Soup, Priscilla Block, Weatherstate and Matreya. So without further ado, let's kick off with our first interview from Roddy Bottum, who has his new autobiography out. Yes, you will know him from Faith No More, and we had a chat with him all about his life and his music. So, Roddy Bottum, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Jim. How about yourself?
Not too bad, thank you so much. So, the reason we're having a little chat is because you've decided to write a memoir. The Royal We is the title, which is out on November the 7th. Tell us a little bit about the memoir itself.
Um, well, I started writing a book. I've always kind of been a writer, but this is my first sort of go at a long form narrative, so to speak. Um, I started writing a couple years ago, just sort of stories that I found myself telling again and again. And I thought it would be nice to have them down on paper. And it kind of started taking the assemblage of a book. And at one point, like a little over a year ago, I kind of had a big spectrum of like kind of like what one booking literary agent called a cradle to grave piece, which from I had written about from when I was a kid till now. And I'd never heard that term before. And when the agent said that to me, oh, you've got kind of a cradle to grave piece, it was kind of insulting. Because I think the type of stories that I like to read are not like that, not like traditional, like beginning to end. Like, biopics, I don't like to watch. I just find them like super predictable. Like, I saw that Napoleon movie here in France last year, and I was just like, all I'm doing is just like looking at my watch, waiting till Napoleon dies, because we all know he's going to die, and it's so predictable. And it's sort of like that phrase, cradle to grave, sort of forced me to acknowledge like what I wanted to do with my book in terms of like making it something different than just one long story of a person's life. So I kind of just I came to France and I started writing and editing what I had worked on and made it more about just the time that I spent as a kid. Was a kid when I turned 17, I moved to San Francisco and went to school. And it was a really specific, particular time in San Francisco then. Uh, Historically, we were before any internet, before any cell phones, and it was a wild, reckless time for kids to live there. It was super cheap, and there were a lot of drugs, and there was a crazy, weird clash between like hippies and punk rock and political kids and apolitical kids and goth rock and bicycle messengers and kind of like weird witch people. It was a really interesting time in San Francisco. And I really feel fortunate to have been there in that time. And I just kind of started to kind of make my book more about that, like doing drugs, being gay, coming out of the closet, and what happened as a result in San Francisco in the 80s and 90s. And I called it the Royal We, kind of referring to sort of just the privileged time that we had as kids living there in that time. Felt like a kind of a sense of royalty.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, nice. And you've touched on a few of the subjects that are in the memoir. There's quite a bit of kind of sadness. There's a lot of tragedy in there. You referred to the drug addiction as well. What was it like reflecting back on that time where times for you kind of hurt the most and kind of rewriting what happened?
I think writing it, sitting down and like actually at my laptop and like putting the words down, I sort of was obsessed with making it sort of more of a literary read and sort of more prosy than anything. I was concerned about like I didn't want it to sound clinical or kind of like a typical autobiography. So I kind of leaned into that. And in that way, it kind of removed me a little bit from the emotions of reliving what I had done when I was a kid and all the tragedy that I had sort of like been faced with. But it's funny, after I finished the book and it's being published and stuff, a couple of weeks ago, I went in and did the audio version, which was fascinating. It took, I didn't know this, but it took me 4 days to read it. You go into a studio and stand in front of a microphone and there's an engineer and you just read the entire book. And I did that, and in doing that, had to sort of like infuse personality and feeling and compassion and a sense of like, honest, true self into the reading. And that was super emotional for me for whatever reason. I kind of felt like it was going to be a real walk in the park. I just sit down and read the book. What could be easier? But that was very emotional. Like every time I left that studio doing that, I was like as if I'd been hit by a truck.
Yeah, I can well imagine. And also, back in the early 90s, you came out as gay, which was a bit of a taboo at the time, which, as we're both members of the LGBT community, is not much of a taboo anymore. What was it like coming out at that time, and what you wrote about in the book?
Yeah, it was a little bit scary, and it's kind of like a weird contradiction because there I was in San Francisco as a young man. San Francisco being like clearly like the queerest city in the entire world. One might ask, like, what's your problem? Like, no one's going to have issues with you being gay in San Francisco as a young man. But I think it just kind of came down to like at that time in history, we had a harder go at it, you know? It was difficult to sort of come to terms with it in a public way because we didn't really have anyone to look up to who had done the same. I didn't anyway. The only gay people I know knew were sort of like or saw were kind of like, cartoon characters, sort of like people on sitcoms, TV sitcoms that sort of were the butt of people's jokes. There was no one sort of like as a hero I could look up to for a lot of years. And it was really sort of like, there was a lot of homophobia amongst kids, even growing up in California. And so for a long time, I held that sort of to myself and coming out was difficult for whatever reason. But I don't know, looking back on it, it's sort of like it feels like lost time a little bit. Like why would that have ever got in my way? I consider myself a provocative person, and I love to push buttons and I love to sort of like, shock people. So I don't know why I didn't address it earlier, but at the time I did, it was a difficult time. And I think at that time too, I sort of had been taking a lot of drugs to sort of like silence the shame of it all. And so it was a complicated time. It was weird. Looking back on it, it was like, yeah, I feel really great. And when I did come out as gay, when Faith No More was a little bit more popular, it was a good place to be because kids would come up to me at shows and sort of, hug me and cry. And it felt really good. And it still feels really good. It felt good at the time to be one of the first sort of like pioneers in the world of rock that was able to come out and sort of like declare that and be that. In retrospect, it feels good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when you came in to start writing this memoir, did you go in with a plan? Did you plan for it to go down the personal route or more faith no more route, or how was it kind of planned out kind of before you started writing?
Yeah, I think like I always intended it to be more of a personal route. I think the root sort of my life and what I happened onto as an individual, as Roddy, getting through the world was always a lot more interesting than it was like than Faith No More was. I mean, Faith No More was an interesting band and sort of for sure it's like a cool sidebar that comes up in my life and like there's a parallel journey through my life of that band, but I really resisted sort of the inclination to make it about the band. I've had just more success and more satisfaction in creating things coming sort of from the heart and more from my own personal story. And I kind of leaned into that as hardly as I could.
Yeah, no, great stuff. And we have to talk about Faith No More as well. So, looking back at the time when you kind of got together with the guys to start releasing and writing music, did you know how big you guys were going to get kind of in the future, or was it a case of just writing tunes and seeing what happens?
Well, have you read the book, Jim?
I've not had chance to. No, I'm sorry.
Okay, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, it's sort of like, I mean, what I talk about in the book, like as kids, we were sort of preposterous and ridiculous in our assumptions. We were really provocative, funny kids, and we had really big heads and big attitudes about what we were doing. I think like it was our intention mostly to provoke people. That's what we always wanted to do, just to sort of like throw things in people's faces. And it was ridiculous, but we kind of always assumed that we were going to be this big band, which was ridiculous. We made like the weirdest noise. There was usually just the three of us, keyboards, drums, and bass. And we didn't care who our singer was. We would switch singers from show to show. And that kind of notion, that's crazy. That how could that ever succeed? We didn't even care what the singer did, but still we thought, oh, we're going to be a really big band. It was almost like tongue in cheek more than anything, though. I think then kind of by the time we sort of stumbled onto Mike Patton and he started singing for us and had sort of professional, more singing chops, I think, than anyone we'd worked with before, we kind of took a different direction. And it ended up going that route. We did become a popular band, but honestly, it was kind of a surprise. I think our what we suspected was going to happen was ridiculous, but when it did happen, it was still a surprise.
Yeah, I can well imagine how surprising that can be because it doesn't happen to many people. You've not just been part of Faith No More, you've done Imperial Teen as well. Where are you at the moment when it comes to writing music?
I'm still in a lot of bands and I write a lot of music. I just was in California finishing a new record with Imperial Teen. And in January, I'm going to record the second Crickets record. Crickets is a band I'm in with JD Sampson and Michael O'Neill. It'll be our second record. And then after that, I think I'm going to do another record with my boyfriend Joey. We have a band called Man on Man, and we'll do another record there. And I'm still kind of working on, I wrote an opera a couple of years ago about Sasquatch, and I'm kind of turning that into a musical. Wow. So saying all those things in a row really makes me sound really prolific. I don't know about that, but I am still like I have a lot of different voices and a lot of different musical projects that I'm working on. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the musical theatre kind of edge that you're going to be putting on to your plans? Is it kind of going to be that full on musical theatre experience, or is it going to be kind of more rock edge and more storytelling?
Well, I wrote this story about Sasquatch that I'm really crazy about. It's a really captivating narrative. The book itself about Sasquatch is really interesting. It's a love story and about a character in the wilderness, kind of like a Frankenstein character who's so hideous. But the big reveal is that character has a heart of gold. And it's kind of a love story about Sasquatch and a woman in the forest and a crazy dysfunctional family. I really like the narrative and the story. So I kind of started with that. And then the instrumentation, when I did it firstly, was very dark and very goth. I had timpani drums, I had synthesizers, I had drum machines, and I had a horn section. Um, I like the way that it came out. I brought it to Edinburgh and presented the opera for 30 days, and it went really well, but it's super expensive. And opera doesn't ever sort of pay off at the end of the day. Not that I'm looking to make a lot of money, but I just don't want to lose money. So at this point, I'm sort of like thinking of a way that I can sort of rework the opera into a musical so I can at least sort of like cover my bases and not lose money. And in this version, I don't know what's going to happen. It's still going to be dark for sure. It's a dark, dark fairy tale. And I'll start with that.
Nice, that sounds good to me. And over the last few years, obviously, Faith No More have been on what is currently being called as hiatus, and I'm sure every band member and yourself gets asked this in every interview. But what's the situation with Faith No More at the moment?
We don't have any plans on playing any shows, and I'm not really so keen on sort of doing this, but we always get offers to play shows, but we just turn them down. I think we created quite a legacy when we did it, and I'm good with leaving it as it was. There's no plans. We have no plans of doing anything.
but never say never, I guess.
Well, you can say never. I don't mind saying never. Never.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Roddy Bottum of Faith No More. Now, we are all over social media at The Sound Lab, yes, on all the socials, and you can also check out the website at thesoundlabuk.co.uk. So while you go and find us on all the socials and give us some follows, we've got our next interview from Jarrett of Bowling for Soup. They are busy releasing music at the moment, both live versions and studio versions too, and they've got lots of touring coming up as well. So we had a chat with Jarrett all about it. So Jarrett of Bowling for Soup, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing so great. How about yourself?
Good, yeah, not too bad. So it's a busy time for you, so we'll work our way through what you've been up to. But firstly, we've been playing a single of yours called Holding On to That Hate. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Man, one of those surprises that just happens, every once in a while and when you're in the music business. But, we had gotten a call from a friend of ours that owns a studio up in the Poconos where we did Pop Drunk Snot Bread, actually. Um, and he was like, "Hey, there's this company SSL is trying out this new piece of gear. Do you guys want to come and try it out on a new song?" And quite frankly, we didn't have a new song, hadn't really been thinking about new songs yet. We're kind of working on some other things. Just released a live record, as you know, and but you kind of can't pass up an opportunity like that, and sort of felt like maybe it'd be a jump start. And so, Rob was like, "Hey, I've got this piece of music." And he sent me this piece of music. And it was like the night before he sent it to me, I had woken up in the middle of the night and written down the first verse of the song. And so it was just like it was supposed to happen that way. It just worked perfectly. And I'm like, well, there we go. We've got it. And so in the studio we went, and this song came out, and honestly really lit a fire under us. And so, excited about the song. And now we're going to do a whole new freaking record.
Nice to hear. Yeah. So where are you at with kind of new music and new writing and a new record? Where are you at with that at the moment?
So we're going to record in February. I have a pretty good start on it. I have, in fact, I was working on something before we got on this call, and the ideas are flowing. I feel like I've got 5 or 6 good ones already, and I hope to get to 12 or 15 that we can weed through. I know Rob's working on some stuff as well, and I'm gonna do a little boys retreat with my buddy Linus, who usually has a few co-writes on all of our albums and stuff. And so, I think the plan is working solidly, and I think we'll be good to go.
Yeah, good. And you're a fair few records in now with Pop Drunk Snot Bread a couple of years ago, but you're first coming out in the early 90s. How's this record, do you feel, going to sound in comparison to your previous releases?
Well, I feel like there is going to be a little bit of a modernness to the overall sonic sound of it, just because we're working with somebody new. We haven't worked with a new producer in since 2009. It's just been myself and Linus of Hollywood producing everything, and so sort of like holding on to that hate does have sort of a Christmas to it, sort of a newer feel than previous stuff. But as far as the songs themselves, I just expect them to be Bowling for Soup songs. I'm really not one to try and reinvent the wheel, though. I do think we're a better band and better songwriters and better players than we were in the 90s. And so, there's a comfort in that, knowing that we can sort of stretch the lines a little bit. But I'm just excited to put out a feel good album, one that people would expect from Bowling for Soup, and one that people will be able to put on after a long day, and that'll make them smile a little bit.
Yeah, good, good. And you do have a new record out now. It's a live album, a hangover you definitely deserve. Tell us a bit about what we can expect to hear on that live record for those who've not had a chance to listen to it yet.
It turned out so great. I mean, it's representative of a Bowling for Soup show that you would go to, and it's recorded front to back, beginning of the show to the end of the show. It's put out exactly as we played it, bad jokes and all, bad notes, bad jokes, all of that stuff. And and I think for those who haven't been to experience a Bowling for Soup show, I feel like it gives you a good idea of what it's like. But we recorded it in Manchester, and one of our favorite places to play on the planet, and one of I think one of the best music crowds in the world. And and it was done after we had been playing that record for almost a year, and so it was a triumphant night because it was quite an undertaking, just after Chris retiring, or at least stepping back from the band, not officially retired yet, but going at an 18 song album, from 2004 as a three piece, was quite, it was looming for a while. It was like, oh my goodness, what is this going to be like? And once we got on the tour, we knew we had something cool. So I'm glad we got to document it, and it's super cool to have that out there for everybody to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on a side question, I was going to ask you towards the end, but you brought Chris's retirement up. How is he? Because I see a lot of kind of Bowling for Soup fans kind of wanting an update, and you're probably the best person to give us an update on how he is.
I just send people to his Instagram, and I say if he's posting pictures of his nipples and his dog's butt, then he must be doing fine. I mean, I'm not he doesn't really like to just talk about his health all the time, and so it's quite frankly we've sort of moved past just that being the top of conversation. But he seems happy, and he's settled in, and he's at his home in Denton, and comfortable, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming back to the live the live record, it's not the first time you've done a live record. What's the reason behind doing live records like you have done over the years? Because not many artists do it. Some do, but you've done it quite a few times. What's the reason?
Yeah, and it's funny because I personally don't like live albums. It's not really something that I I like to listen to. I mean, it never really has been my thing. I prefer recorded, studio things, but I know that other people like that. And so yeah, I think three full band live albums in, and two acoustic live albums as well. And but I think for me it's that. So it's going back to what I was saying earlier. I think just putting it out there that hey, these guys can actually play their songs, and this is what it's like to go see them live, and you get a bit more of the fun, and the fun side of our personalities, and that then we can't really portray all of that on a recorded album. And so and honestly, I really just like documenting the moment in time, whether it's something like this, like a Hangover You Definitely Deserve, where it's one night, or like the last acoustic live album that we released, Stoked on Trent, which was recorded over several shows. And so there's different crowds, and for different songs and stuff, but a similar vibe. And it's for me it's one of those things where it's just, I think it's good content, and like I said, a good mark of a moment, when we were out there and playing those songs, and people were enjoying it. And so but again, as I said, just because I'm not a fan of live records doesn't mean that other people aren't, because I know a lot of people do like them. Somebody was just telling me the other day, somebody like I can't remember who it was, just like, I prefer live albums, and I was like, that's ridiculous. But there you go. We something for everybody out there, I guess.
Yeah, as long as you're keeping everyone happy, that's the main thing. And you've got a busy end of the year coming up. You've got a North America tour over the next month or so, but you can't wait to be on the road again.
Man, I tell you, this last tour that we did with Simple Plan and 303 and Lolo, it was a month, and that's the longest we've been away at one time since 2010. We're just kind of not, we don't we've always, once I had kids and everybody else started having kids, we really changed the way that we toured, and so we don't stay gone quite as long. But I'll tell you, it got me into a routine where I got home, and I was excited to be home, but I really missed the road a lot quicker. And so I am really happy to get out there. We haven't done a headlining tour in a year, and so of the US, it's been a year, and so I'm excited to get out there, and this leads us to Epcot for a few days at Disney, and then also the final Warp Tour of 2025, and so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you've got the biggie over here in the UK with your biggest show at Wembley Arena. How are you going to celebrate such a big venue for the first time?
We had grandiose ideas. We started to put together all of these things that we were going to do, and honestly, we reeled it back in and said, "You know what? Let's get on stage, the three of us. Of course, the production's going to be awesome, and we're going to bring a freaking great show, but instead of it being like let's have guests on every other song and let's like move the stage, let's like me I'll go out and sing a song in the middle of the crowd and all of this, we reeled all that back in and we were like, what got us here was our show. Let's go out there at Wembley and do our show. Let's spread the material out over the last 25, 30 years, and let's get out there and have fun and just enjoy it and do it like people would expect to see it. And so I'm really glad that we've come back to that decision, because I think that's what we're comfortable with. That's what people are expecting to see. And but I will say the set list is pretty it's definitely not the normal, super super fast paced all only hits set that we've played for the last several years. It's we're kind of reaching back into a few of the records and pulling some songs out that we've never played. And it's definitely going to be something for everybody, and the hits too.
Yeah, good. When it comes to picking tracks that you've probably not played for many years, if at all, live, is it a case of, do you know the tracks straight away and know how to play them, or are you going to have to relearn them?
Yeah, that we have to go relearn them. I mean, I'm really, I'm not one of those guys that, I know a lot of those guys that can just, they're just a jukebox and you can just say a song and they can just sit and play it. And, guys like that can go back through their whole catalog and play you any song. That is not me. I am one that, like, I mean, I'm serious. Like if I haven't played it, if it's not almost 1985, High School Never Ends, Ohio, if it's not like in that caliber of a Bowling for Soup song, then I have to go back over it. And I mean it. Like it's like my Weena. I would need to, like, let me think about that for a minute, and it's like Smoothie King and things like that. So there's definitely, 20 songs that I could just play anytime. But other than that, if it's one that we've never played or haven't played in a while, I have to go back over it. And I think Gary even would need to listen. And Rob is Rob is kind of one of those guys. Once he knows a song, he pretty much knows it. So if it's a song he's played before, he can pretty much pick it out.
Nice. Is there a track that you've probably not played before over your 11 records that, without giving anything away, of course, that you kind of want to squeeze into a set at some point that you've maybe not played ever before?
Well, we're gonna do that actually, and so I won't give it away. But actually, we're doing at least two ballads, which we've never done in the history of Bowling for Soup. So we're doing the one that I think everybody will expect us to do, and then we're doing one that is going to. I think people are going to be very, very surprised, and I think very happy that we're doing it. But there's definitely a few songs here and there. We accomplished so much of it because we came over and did the whole Drunk Enough to Dance album several years ago. In fact, that was our live at Brixton. Was that one of our live albums was us doing the whole Drunk Enough to Dance record, and now we've played the whole Hangover You Don't Deserve. You know that I just put that together. That our last two live albums are both album records. I really had not thought about that.
There you go.
It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you'll have to do live albums for the rest now.
Well, I think we probably got two more that people would enjoy, but I think there's, I think if we tried to do like Lunch Drunk Love, everybody would be so pissed off, and that one tends to make people sad too sometimes. So we'll keep it with the happy ones.
Yeah, no, do that. And finally, what's 2026 going to hold for you? Because you said you're back out in the studio, but what else you got planned for next year?
My goodness, it is such a crazy cool year as far as the map is concerned. We're like I said, in the studio. We have a little time to ourselves. I'm putting everything else on hold for now, the country band and a few other projects. I'm just going full-fledged Bowling for Soup, like old school. But we've got a trip to Australia. We have another trip over to the UK that we're discussing, and then I'm hoping we will announce close to Wembley. And then some US dates towards the end of the summer and into the fall, and then hopefully have that record out and keep pounding away.
And festivals too?
So not festivals next year. We're hoping that the following year is our festival year. So swinging for the fences, maybe try to actually do the thing where we go over to even some of the European ones that we haven't done. But specifically, I have my eye on a few of the ones in the UK that I'm sure you can imagine what I want to do. Well, let's just hope that things continue to go as planned, and we see you guys at the festivals in 2027.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Jarrett from Bowling for Soup. Now, if you are listening to us on Spotify, then you'll be pleased to hear we also have a playlist. It's called Fresh. It brings you 150 brand new up-and-coming artists that we feel like you might just enjoy yourselves. And if you want to check that out, search Fresh by The Sound Lab on Spotify or head to the website thesoundlabuk.co.uk and click on the Fresh Playlist button. So while you go and check the playlist out and give it a save to listen to later on, we've got our next interview from Priscilla Block. She released her latest record just a few weeks ago and we had a chat with her all about it. So Priscilla Block, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks so much. So we have been playing a single of yours called Phones and Radios. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
This song is it's kind of about that whole feeling when you hear it's over. And whether that's a breakup or loss, and the whole idea, this song is taking place in the middle of nowhere where the only thing that should be breaking up is phones and radios, but instead it's your heart that's breaking, and it's a place that used to be peaceful, but now you can't go out there without thinking of this person or thinking of that moment. Where you're like, dang, I guess it's really over.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is off your new record, Things You Didn't See, which is out now. For those who've not had a chance to listen to the record yet, tell us a bit about the release.
Things You Didn't See. This is my sophomore album, and I'm really proud of it. This record it was kind of my chance to show the world a little bit of a different side than they've seen. I feel like I share a lot of myself online on the internet. I'm like a very open book. But there's so many parts of my life that a lot of people don't know about, whether it's where I'm from or the insecurities that I've faced, the love in my life. So this record is kind of like everything that people may not know about me. And I feel like my story's in this record. And I feel like kind of as you listen through it, you really get to know me, as more than just like the shiny things. You really kind of just see the depth behind me.
Nice. Yeah, nice. And the sound that you've made with this record, is it the sound you wanted, or is it kind of how it turned out as you were writing and recording it?
Yeah, I think it turned out even better than I was hoping. I think, just as I wrote more of the songs for the record, it kind of like found its own thing, which was really cool. It's definitely got some more country elements. My first record was like very a lot of party songs and stuff like that, and that's still on this record. There's definitely still some like personality pieces and the quintessential like Priscilla songs. But there's a lot of raw and realness on this record. I left one song just as the demo, which I think is really cool. It kind of just shows just a more stripped down, raw version of me. We made a remake of the older song Cecilia, which was really fun to challenge myself to do something there. But yeah, I kind of feel like this album, as I continued writing it, really it became its own thing, and way better than I ever could have imagined.
Good, good. And I'm sure you wrote more than what made it onto this record. What happens to those now? Do you consider them again down the line, or is it a case of starting afresh when the time comes?
I don't know. I mean, there could be a world where maybe we put out a deluxe on this album, which I think would be really fun, and see some of the songs that maybe didn't make it. Um, but yeah, I feel like the ones that we chose for this record like told the complete story that I was kind of wanting to tell. Um, but yeah, I mean, I always like the songs that we've even cut, like sometimes it's cool to revisit stuff, you know, things you didn't see, which is the title track to this album that wasn't even going to be on my album. And it was like an old song that I like stumbled across that I was like, wow, this song really tells my story. And it's wild. So I feel like songs like always have a chance to like raise their hand again, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of records in now, and there was some EPs that you've done recently and before as well. How does this record sound in comparison to your previous releases?
You know, I think that there's definitely similarities. You know, with just like I said, like the fun songs, there's still some fun songs, there's still Goodwill to Gucci. I just think that this record was, like I said, my chance to just show people a different side that they maybe haven't seen. And I think like people have seen like the big personality Priscilla and like the shiny, like get ready girl, you know, just the big personality. And I I felt like this record was kind of my chance to like just take control of my narrative and really figure out like what I want to tell the world. And um, you know, I think that there's just a lot of depth on this record.
Nice, yeah, nice. And I like to talk about the writing side of things as well. So for you, how do tracks normally start off?
You know, it really just depends. Like sometimes songs start when I'm driving down the road. Sometimes I'll be in a co-write with other writers and like somebody will bring in this idea that they're like, "Hey, I think this is super you." It kind of just depends. A lot of these songs were written on my tour bus. And I was in an interesting place in my life, like couldn't care less. Came when a time like during a time that I was feeling like really misunderstood in my artistry, and it happened just raw, real with me and some co-writers and a guitar on the road. So it kind of just depends. Like sometimes we'll have a track person in the room and they're like kind of vibing on the tracks and like creating like just a feel that we can kind of start singing to. But I think it really just comes down to like a strong idea. Like if somebody has a strong idea that feels right and it feels me, we chase it.
Yeah, and how do you go about the layering up process, especially when it comes to the lyrics side of things and then adding instrumentation to it or the other way around? How does that normally work?
I feel like so once we kind of figure out what the songs are and what songs are kind of just like raising their hand, we went into the studio with really amazing session players in Nashville, and it's kind of crazy like watching a song come together like in its entirety, you know, because like I have a vibe. Like I feel like I know what a song's gonna sound like. Cause typically like the demo kind of gives you a good feel of like where the song could go. When you add some like electronic drums and like all of that. And so you can kind of like feel a little bit of how big the song could be with like a full band behind it. But watching a song come together in the studio is one of the most I feel like it's one of the coolest parts of really the whole process is just watching a song come together fully. And you're in the room with just amazing musicians where they add a guitar lick or a random like fiddle part that I would have never expected with the song. There's so many people and parts that come into really like creating a full song.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been busy over the last few weeks. You've been on the road. How have the shows been going?
The shows have been amazing. We just kicked off my headlining tour. Things you didn't see. We're taking the album on the road, which has been really fun. So we started that last weekend. I just wrapped the Cole Swindell tour, which was really fun. And then I bus out tonight to go back on the road. We've got 4 shows coming up this weekend. But it's been really awesome. It's so, you know, it's quick after we put out this album to tour it. But it's been really exciting. Just the fans are just so die hard and like hearing all of these songs in a live setting in front of people that already know the songs is wild.
Yeah, absolutely. And the dates are taking you through until March next year, but they're all North American dates. When are you coming up back this way and into Europe and further afield?
Well, I can't give that away fully, but I can say it's going to be happening hopefully sooner than we think. We haven't finalized everything, but coming back out there is something that I want to do. I've been looking forward to it every single time we get to come that way. It's amazing and some of the best memories that we've created as a band and everything. So I cannot wait. I'm counting down the days. I don't know the exact date, but we're definitely going to be coming back.
Good, can't wait. Is there anywhere you've not been to yet that you want to get to at some point?
Oh my goodness. I feel like everywhere that I haven't been, I want to go. It's wild and a blessing that I get to take my music to different countries and different places and be able to see the world. And somehow people know the songs, which is crazy and it's unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, I would love to do Germany. I mean, I'd love to. We did Australia and New Zealand last year or 2 years ago, and I would love to go back out that way. I mean, I'm wherever we can play country music, I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And I think just before we finish off the interview, I must congratulate you on your weight loss journey. It's taken,
Thank you.
yeah, you're looking great for it. So
Thank you so much. I've been really working on myself hard over the past couple years, and it's interesting. You get busy in life, really, just especially in this career that I'm in. Every single night you're kind of pouring into everybody else and fans and all of that, and it's over the past 2 years, I really wanted to start just working on me and putting back in time to myself because I think it was like something that I stopped doing a little bit along the way, and so I really appreciate that. It's been a journey, but it's been great.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Priscilla Block to talk about her latest record, out now. Now, if you're loving all of today's interviews, then you can hear them again in an edited form on our international radio show. It comes alongside a load of new music and live sessions too. It lasts for just 2 hours, and if you want to check that out, head to the website thesoundlabuk.co.uk and click on the International Radio Show button. So while you go and check the show out to listen to, of course, later on, we've got our next interview from Weatherstate, who we had a chat with at Truck Festival earlier this year. So, Weatherstate, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks, really good.
I'm doing great.
Good. You're here at Truck Festival. How's your festival experience been so far?
Yeah, fantastic. We just got off stage and it was, so much better than even our expectations. It was really packed tent and proper sweaty. We thought it was going to be maybe a bit of a slow start where it was a Sunday and everyone might be hungover, but managed to get people involved. So yeah, it was a real good time.
And all go to plan?
Yeah, all go to plan.
Right. Good.
Yeah, it was. There's a few things we had to overcome with this. So Toby, our lovely drummer, is on holiday, so we had a lovely fill-in on our friend Alex. So we had a few rehearsals coming up to this, and we were like, "Is it going to be okay?" And it was great on the day. So it was great. 'Cause we've always been the same lineup through our 12-year career now.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard when you're like, oh, we got Truck Fest coming up, we need a fill-in drummer, but Alex smashed it. It was really good, really good.
Yeah, nice. I hear you have a new single coming out soon.
We do. Not actually announced yet, but we played it today. It's a kind of faster, more kind of skate punk song, and we definitely thought we wanted to drop it in today to get people off their feet, might be a bit, shake off the cobwebs a bit kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it's really good. It went down well, I think. So
It's more of it's very much like a song we kind of recorded a batch of songs at the end of 2023.
Yeah.
So we've been sat on those for that's part of a year now, and we've kind of been lining up things to kind of get this song out soon. So it's been nice kind of put it in rotation into our set now, and like Harry said, it's just a very fast skate punk banger, and just really keen to kind of get it out into the world soon. So sitting on some really good stuff at the moment. So yeah.
So not just the odd single. It's going to be. Are we working up towards another bigger body of work then? I guess.
So at the moment, like I said, we got a couple. We released Hellbent last year, and we've got another couple singles that we recorded. We're also currently working on some new material as well. The plan originally was to kind of just release some singles and see, maybe potentially put it out in a kind of compilation record. But who knows? It depends how the writing goes. If we keep writing and we keep, coming up with stuff that we're really proud of, then it potentially will be a bigger body of work. But we just want to keep writing and releasing music and playing it at festivals like this. So
yeah, absolutely. Do you know what direction you're wanting to take the sound and music in?
Personally, for me, some of the new songs, they have heavier bits than some of our, older stuff, but it's still fundamentally the kind of core Weatherstate sound. But just kind of, we wanted to do some more kind of like vibey, kind of grungy kind of stuff. But then Hellbent was kind of more of a kind of like traditional kind of Weatherstate sound. So nothing's really off the table, but we're just kind of growing as as we get older and as our kind of tastes change a bit. But fundamentally, it's still in the same ballpark as the core Weatherstate sound that we've always done.
Yeah, nice. I'd like to talk about the writing side of things as well. So for you guys, how do tracks normally start off?
So Callan and I normally, one of us would come up, he'd either come up with a guitar riff, or I'll come up with a melody and a chorus, and then I'll take it to Callan, and then he'll kind of pick it apart and maybe change around some of the chords, but make something that complements the melody or the kind of hook that I've kind of written. Then our bass player Hogan then kind of sits in with us as we demo it, and then comes up with different kind of options of ideas and stuff. And then Toby then comes along and then listens to it and puts his spin on it afterwards. So that's the way it normally works. But we have had it before where one of the new singles actually, which again is unannounced, which is actually the third single, the one after the one we mentioned earlier. That was one that we actually all wrote together just in a practice space. Mm-hmm. So we really wanted to kind of encapsulate that kind of practice room kind of vibe, as opposed to it feeling like it was just written on a computer or demos kind of thing. And that one specifically is a bit more kind of sludgy and a bit more grungy, and it makes more sense to do it like that. So again, nothing's off the table, but normally it starts with either Callan or I coming up with a kind of a part, and then we all then kind of turn it into something proper.
It's very much it's kind of approaching the song and what works best for that kind of song we're working on. There are songs where it suits sitting in and doing a demo process properly, sat on a computer. But then there are songs and I think this is something we've been trying to do more so on the new songs, is try and just let everyone have their own voice on with every instrument. So I think it's a classic guitarist trope that you might sit on a computer and program the most complicated drums in the world, and you're not the drummer, that kind of thing. Yeah. So something I've been learning to do more is just I will just send Toby the guitars and I'll just go do whatever you want, you know. And that's something I think that's come across more so in our new stuff. It's more organically us. Everyone's voice is heard more so now, and I think that's just lessons learned from just the last few years, basically. Yeah. So I think the new stuff for us is the most organically Weatherstate, I think. And it's just I think that's what we try to achieve on that anyway. But that's it.
Nice. Once you finish here this weekend, what's your plan next?
Like I said, at the moment we've got a couple unreleased songs that the plan is to shoot some videos for, and obviously come up with a release plan for that. So we're really excited to kind of get that out. At the same time, there's a lot of stuff that I've been writing. I've got hundreds of videos on my phone of chorus ideas and stuff like that kind of want to sit with the guys and then make something of it. So we definitely like to get back in the studio. Not this year, certainly first part of next year, and then just keep kind of consistently releasing music. I think that's one of the benefits of kind of releasing singles as opposed to having to write an entire album that sometimes can take years and years. We're at the point now where we just kind of want to release music and just play the new songs, because some of our older stuff that we play in our sets now is 10 years old, so it just feels nice just to write new stuff and then play it and it go down well like it did today. So
Any more shows this year?
Got nothing lined up at the moment. Like I said, the focus is going to be on releasing the singles, and then obviously booking some shows and some tours and weekenders to kind of support that. So the plan at the moment is to kind of write more and release the stuff that we've been sitting on, and then we'll definitely get out and try and do as many shows as possible, try and do more festivals like this. It was, when you play a show like it was today, so, as good as that, it really gives you a, shot in the arm kind of thing,
A buzz that you want to do.
Absolutely,
do some more.
yeah. It's just, sometimes it can be a bit of a slog where we've got a bit older and stuff. You get a bit, sometimes negative with it. You're a bit like, oh, it's, is it kind of worth, doing it sometimes? But you play a show like today and you're like, holy shit, that's, that's why we do all the writing and, playing shows and stuff when it's as good as that. So yeah, just get out there as much as possible once we release the new stuff, really.
Yeah, good. Is there anywhere you've not been to yet that you want to go and play at some point?
Don't know. We were talking about hopefully trying to get back to mainland Europe at some point.
I would love to.
'Cause, yeah, every time we've been over to Germany, Holland, Belgium, etc. We've always loved the shows over there, and we haven't done that for about 5 or 6 years now, pre-COVID I think it was. So yeah, we'd definitely love to get back out there and do a bit more travelling and just like play with some cool bands over there. But yeah, I think so.
I was going to say we've been fortunate enough to be able to tour the mainland and stuff a little bit, and Germany's always been great to us as well. Always eager to go back to Europe. It's just, at this point it's kind of like dream booking, but we'd love to do the States. But we were at one point actually booked to go out there in 2020. We were going to go out twice, and we were going to make an album out there. And then we were going to go out to do Fest in Florida, which is like a big, it's like a big punk rock festival in Gainesboro. And sadly, COVID kind of stifled all that stuff. It just didn't happen. I think at this point in the career, we're a bit, we're not really chasing a big career at this point. Yeah. We've been doing it for 12 years, and we're kind of just doing stuff on our own terms now. So it's nice to be like, when we write music, we put it out, try and give it the most eyes as possible, and then if the tour and the shows are right, and then we'll do that. So like for us, I'd love to go to Europe.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think that kind of mentality actually helps the songwriting process as well, because rather than we never deliberately would write for a certain kind of sound or something that was on trend, but you maybe subconsciously are trying to keep up words like momentum and things like this, whereas now we're kind of doing it on our terms, right in the middle, and then 10 it comes out better for that, just keep releasing stuff and then go back to places that we've been before, maybe some new places, but just as many shows, and if we can do some more festivals like today, then that'd be fantastic.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Weatherstate from Truck Festival from earlier this year. Now, if you love all of our interviews, which I'm sure you do because you're listening to us right here, then if you head to YouTube or TikTok, then you can both check out the interviews that we have done recently in full, and also some short clips that you might just enjoy. So check us out at The Sound Lab Yes on YouTube and TikTok for those. So while you go and follow us on those two to check out our little snippets of interviews we've done recently, we've got our final interview from Matreya. You'll remember him as a contestant on X Factor a fair few years ago. Well, he's back under the name Matreya, and he's been releasing new music this year. We had a chat with him all about it. So Matreya, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, Jim. I appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure is all mine. And we've been playing a new single of yours called I Saw the Light. Tell us a little bit about the single, first of all.
Well, it's a single from struggle and from struggle to insight, I'd say. Going through the motions of feeling completely beat down by life and having a kind of pivotal moment where that all changes for you.
Yeah, I can well imagine. And you've got a couple of singles out there now. Are we now gearing up towards a bigger body of work like an EP, or are we just sticking with singles for now?
No, the EP is out at the start of 2026. So I'm kind of just putting out some singles first of all and getting people used to the vibe, and then a larger body of work will be out. Yeah.
Good. And how's the EP sounding?
It's interesting. Each record has its own little world around it and has its own culture around it and visuals around it. So there is a thread that runs through the entire thing, which is makes it cohesive, and I guess that's just my sound, but every record is very different. Yeah.
Nice. And the sound that you have made with it, is it the sound you wanted, or is it kind of just how it turned out as you were recording it?
Um, it's definitely the sound that I wanted, and I kind of make these songs and I take them to my engineer and he helps me with some sound design and things like that. But in general, this sound is something that I've created and has been sort of gestating for a few years. Yeah, as I've sort of absorbed different influences over the past few years.
Nice. And I'd like to talk about the writing side of things as well. So for you, how do tracks normally start off?
I'd say they usually start up with this EP anyway. They started off with the rhythms. I was very much influenced by sort of tribal rhythms and things like this. So that's how it started, and then and the words sort of flowed afterwards once I gauged the mood of the record whilst I was making it.
Is it was it quite easy to create the lyrics to the music, or was it a bit of a challenge at times?
No, actually, with this project, everything just flowed very easily. I'd come up with the kind of mood for the track, and the lyrics were just felt like they were already there. With this one in particular, it felt like they were more like mantras, more like things that you could repeat to yourself, and words that you could repeat to yourself, which have, layered meanings to them, but are very simple. So I wanted to create, I was listening to a lot of mantra music at the time that I was making this. So I wanted to make something which could be repeated and carried an energy. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And looking to the future as well. Do you think you'll continue writing in this way, or do you think you'll try other things to see if they work for you?
I write in all different ways. For this project that worked specifically, but sometimes, I'll just have a hook in my head or I'll have a melody in my head and then I'll try and build the soundscape around it to what I've heard in my head and try and transcribe it the best way I can. And I've got songs which are more kind of songwritey and flowy. And there's all sorts of types of things that I make. But this one in particular, like I said, this EP was heavily influenced by being able to repeat useful mantras to yourself.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. I'm sure you've wrote many tracks, more than what's out there and more than that's
Mm.
on this EP. Do you know the direction that you're wanting to go in the future, or are you just gonna kind of see how this EP does and take it step by step?
Yeah, I have about 3 albums worth of stuff that I want to get out, and there's so many different vibes in it that I guess now that this is about putting a toe in the water and seeing what resonates and what works for people. But I'm not necessarily somebody who cares about being consistent or following a certain type of trend or type of music in that way. I actually prefer to, if somebody expects something from you, to do the opposite. And I think that when artists do that, then you get a better idea of how they're evolving as a person, how they're evolving as an artist, when they're not following the dictates of what the current audience are saying. And then you actually get interesting work from people.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm sure you'll be wanting to do some shows as well. What's your plan for this year and doing some live stuff?
Yes, I've got some live stuff, kind of gestating, just finding a nice venue in London and hopefully next year as well, some festivals and to do a UK tour, and get the music out there. But first of all, we're sort of just building this sound and building this kind of portfolio for people to see what Matreya is really about because I guess since my re-emergence into the music scene, my music has changed quite a bit. So just getting people used to what's coming really.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, UK is on the cards for doing shows. Are you wanting to get anywhere else around the world?
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to get to Europe. I'd love to get to the States, and even go as far as Japan and Korea and these types of places. So, that would be great. I think the music has a sort of universal appeal to it. It's quite mutable in that sense. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out there, and I have a few different I have a community out in the world that has followed me since X Factor.
Yeah.
And with that kind of audience, everybody's sort of dotted around. So right now it's kind of collating everybody and letting everybody know that this is happening again.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've touched on X Factor, so we'll talk about that now. What was it like being on the show? I think it was back in 2015 you were on there.
Yes, yeah. It was bittersweet. It was bittersweet, as you can imagine, and extremely intense and tough at points. But extremely rewarding and beautiful, and in other in other regards. So it's definitely not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, are you still in touch with anyone from the show, like other acts or producers or anyone?
Yes, I speak to some of the boys that were on the show. We keep in touch. But just the guys that were in my group, yeah.
Yeah, nice. And obviously, I think you were performing under the name Mason Noise at the time. Obviously, it was a different style of music than what you're doing now. What kind of feedback have you got from those who enjoyed you on your X Factor journey and kind of post that and now hearing what you're doing now?
Um, from what I gather, people are receiving that this music now has a deeper meaning to it and a deeper depth to it, which is nice. And that some of the reviews that I've been having have been really incredible, because they've kind of mirrored back this project to me in a way that I didn't even see sometimes, and the effect that it's having. So I think the music when I was on X Factor was cool, but now it has this other layer of depth that people are sort of getting to see now, and realizing, oh, there's more to this now.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Matreya from earlier this year. And that's the end of the show, I'm afraid, for another week. But don't you worry, we will be back next week with another episode. But if you can't wait until then, check out social media at The Sound Lab ES on all the socials. Check out the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk, and make sure you check out our fresh playlist on Spotify. And that's the end of the show for another week. So check us out, same time next week, right here on Interviews Unedited. Goodbye.